All right, we are doing another episode of the Top 8 podcast. I'm Matt Batiste.
I'm your co-host, TJ, as always.
And today we're going to be talking about one that's very near and dear to, I think, a lot of us, right? Like, if you ever just thought, I wish I could go back in time and just hear this song for the first time over again. Because the first time you listened to it, it just hit, right? Or maybe it took you a little while to get into a band. And then there's one song now that really registers with you and you want to listen to it again for the very first time. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I have a couple different moments. There's some where, like, at the time of my life, this song just hit me so hard. Sometimes it's a song that just, like, converted you into a fan. Like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. How have I not listened to this band? Sometimes it's just a straight up emotional response. I got a bunch of different things on here. So we won't be having a combined date because this is so personal.
Yeah.
But
we are going to ask you, of course, like usual, what are those songs that you wish that you could hear again for the first time?
And tell us why.
Yeah, tell us why. What is that moment that you had with it? What exactly is the reasoning behind it? And what songs were it, like, did that for you, right? Because those usually end up being the best songs.
For sure.
So what do you have at number 8?
Okay, number 8. I already cheated. I have 2 at my number 8 because I couldn't choose between them because they basically elicited the exact same response.
Okay.
It's the only time I've ever cried listening to a song for the first time.
Okay.
And it happened twice. The first time was listening to the song called I Lee by Too Close to Touch, which is the single saddest song I've ever heard in my goddamn life. Basically, the vocalist of this band, Too Close to Touch, who has since passed away tragically, rest in peace to Keaton, lost his baby sister. And this song is like, basically, why did you take her? It's kind of like talking to a higher power, like, why did you take her? You should have taken me. I'm a piece of shit. Blah, 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 blah.
Damn.
And it hits so goddamn hard. Genuinely welled up the first time I listened to it.
And you're tying this song with another one.
Yes.
At number 8.
Which, yeah, I know. You know what? Probably should have had these higher. I didn't want to have like a double near the top. So I was like, I'm just going to put it at 8 just to like say both of them.
What's
your
other
the other one is Constance by Spirit Box, which is about both the individual who filmed the music video for this song and the vocalist had recently lost members of their family. So the music video is specifically about losing somebody to dementia, which hits home really hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the music video it's haunting. It's like, it's so tragic. The music itself, it's super sad. And then at the end, it gets like heavier and heavier. And it kind of like goes out on this big kind of like waving breakdown that just kind of like slows down 4 times in a row. And it's like, it's basically the musical equivalent of like slowly fading away as a dementia patient.
That's kind of cool too that they did that with the music.
Yes, like the first time I heard the song, I was watching the video and all of it just like came over me. So
sometimes watching a music video does one of 2 things. Sometimes it helps you feel the music, and other times it disconnects you from the music.
Yeah, for sure. In this case, it definitely helped. Now that I'm thinking about it, I should have definitely had these higher. Anyways, they're on the list, but both are amazing songs.
Yeah, I honestly feel like sometimes too, like ranking songs like this, because we're obviously talking about an emotional connection that we have with these songs. Like the 1 to 8 isn't even necessarily of one's better than the other. It's just these are 8 songs that did this, you know?
They're different experiences too. So like, it's not like a 1 to 8 sequential. It's like, here's 8 great songs that I had great memories about.
1,000%.
Yeah.
For me, I have Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Oh, nice.
You know, and that's just because we've talked in the past, like Nirvana was is such a special band to me growing up. And it was like, I just remembered like something just clicked in my brain when I heard Nirvana for the first time. Obviously, that's the first song that I heard, like most people. And so, you know, you're throwing in your headphones and this song comes on the CD that someone burnt you. And you're just like, whoa, right? Like music can be like this. And that was the moment that I realized music can be like that. So for me, like just to have that like thing click in my brain again that was like a cool moment, right?
For sure. If you can pinpoint, I think it's super cool if you can pinpoint the moment that like something switched for you. That's my number one.
Yeah.
Obviously won't say what it is, but that's that serious stuff. Like, boom, I'm a fan.
Yeah, and that was Smells Like Teen Spirit for me because I was, I think, like 12 years old. And it was just like, and I thought that I loved music because I was already like, listening to like, Metallica and honorable mention to like maybe Enter Sandman. Or Sad But True, because actually that was the first song that I heard by them because it was the first track on the Black Album, and I just like put the Black Album on and was like, whoa, right? And it just got better and better. But Smells Like Teen Spirit was like really clicked and it put me over the edge.
Fair. My number 7 is Pisces by Ginger, which I'm sure a lot of people have not heard this, but the music video for this is like a live in studio recording of the song. So the band's just like sitting there performing. But it's like one of the most reacted to videos on all of YouTube because the singer Tatiana, it starts off like super soft and pretty, and she's like singing in this really like ethereal voice. And then all of a sudden it pivots 180 and like the band kicks into gear. She starts screaming. And I didn't know Ginger didn't have 2 vocalists. And I was like, holy shit, she's doing everything?
Yeah.
So it made me like even more, because I had heard some of their songs. I'm like, oh, this is good. But that Pisces live studio recording, I was like, holy shit, this band is phenomenal. And they still, like, their bassist is also insanely talented. And I love like listening to him play bass specifically.
Yeah.
So this song made me like an instant fan. And it's one of my favorite songs of all time, to be honest.
For me, number 7, I have Motion City Soundtrack, LGFUAD.
Okay.
And I put Motion City on here because I still have like vivid memories of being in like the 9th or 10th grade, my long hair in front of the face, I couldn't see anything. And,
of course.
There was this other kid named Marcus, and shout out to Marcus because we randomly kept touch when he saw one of my reels go viral, and we started talking again, but like I specifically remember the person who showed me Motion City Soundtrack, and he was like, have you heard of this band Motion City Soundtrack? They're awesome. And he handed me his earphones, earbuds. And I'm like, I want to say AirPods, but not AirPods. Yeah. It was the 2000s. And I remember this song came on and I was like, holy shit, who is this? They had that like perfect balance between being emo and emotional with like also kind of like pop punk and like comforting. It was weird.
Okay.
It was like sad and comforting at the same time. Like Motion City Soundtrack felt like this weird, happy, warm hug in a time of sadness for me. And it's a weird way to describe it, but it was like they were also my winter band because they sort of had this weird, happy, fuzzy
like a shot of whiskey.
Yeah, like this way of like making me feel warm and happy when it was like cold and sad out.
Okay, that's super cool.
That's the way that I always like mentally block them off in my brain. So it was like to be able to get to hear that again would be sick.
Sweet. My number 6 is Try Honesty by Billy Talent.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because I remember specifically seeing this music video for the first time. It was either randomly on Much Music or it was during like Video on Trial. And me being like, holy shit, this band is so good. Mm-hmm. I think it was like, there was like a time period where I just stumbled upon Billy Talent and I found like their first 2 records kind of at the same time. So it was Try Honesty, Nothing to Lose, and then also I think Devil in a Midnight Mass was also really big on Much Music at the time. And I just fell in love with Billy Talent like instantly. So to go back and just like hear that again for the first time, especially, I feel like it would just take me back to like being in that at that time, watching Much Music, like the glory days.
Yeah, I remember actually we would go to Florida, my family, when we were kids, and my cousins would meet us down there and they would drive. And I remember I didn't know who Billy Talent was, but then my cousin and her dad showed up and they were like, yeah, we listened to Billy Talent the whole way, like a 24-hour drive. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, like, yeah.
It's a lot of Billy Talent.
And my parents were like, to my cousin's dad, like, oh, that must be terrible for you, right? Because I was like, I'd be lucky if I got to put in one Nirvana CD on our drive down there.
Okay.
But he was like, no, I loved it. It kept me awake because he did like the full drive and you get tired because it's like the guy's screaming. It kept me awake. And I'm like, I got to hear this album. Like, what's this album? And then me and my cousin listened to that album the whole time in Florida. So when I hear that first Billy Talent album, I remember being like 12, 13 years old, like hanging out in a resort in Florida and like listening with my cousin like this. That was sick.
This is one of the first CDs I ever bought for myself too, and I specifically remember my parents had like a vacation trailer that we had like 45 minutes away, and I had told them to stop on the way so I could buy the CD, and then when we got there, I sat in the car for an hour and just listened to the CD on repeat. Yeah. So yeah,
That's amazing. At number 6, I have Blink-182 Feeling This.
okay.
And I have this song over all the others because this was the song, I think, this was around the time that I truly became a fan of Blink-182.
Oh, okay.
Because with Blink, I think we've talked about this on our Pipeline episode. It took me a little bit longer to kind of get into the pop punk stuff because I was really into the, like Godsmack and Metallica and then Nirvana and like the heavier stuff, right? And then my cousin that I've kind of mentioned with like Billy Talent, she was always really into like the Sum 41s and Blink-182. So she was always into like the poppier pop punk stuff. I was into the heavier stuff.
Yep.
And then the thing that really made Blink click for me was the Untitled album.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was Feeling This and seeing that video on Much Music and like, just that album and that song really made me go, whoa, this is sick. And then that made me dive deeper into Blink and that made me like really fall in love with Blink. But it was like, there's something about Feeling This. I don't know what it is, even though it's not like a slow emotional song. There's something about even like the bridge too, where I'm just like, the song's giving me goosebumps right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, which is weird because it's Feeling This, Like it's not Stay Together for the Kids.
No, I was
it's not
gonna say,
Miss
it's
You.
not
It's not Adam's song, but it's like Feeling This gives me this weird. At the time, it gave me these weird goosebumps. Like it was like this emotional song, even though like they have way more other emotional songs. And so because of that feeling from listening to it the first time, now I look back to it with the nostalgia of that feeling. So that's my favorite Blink song.
Amazing.
So yeah, I wish I could hear that song for the first time again.
My number 5 is Psychosocial by Slipknot. And I specifically remember I was in guitar class in grade 10 and I had like heard Slipknot before because my dad and his friend were big on like the new metal at the times, but I'd only really heard like Duality and like the bigger songs that would kind of come up when you would just put on like a new metal YouTube playlist.
Yeah.
But then one of my friends was like, oh, you have to hear this. Like I can't remember if it was like one of the singles leading up to All Hope Is Gone. But he basically just showed me that song and I was like, holy shit, like the riff in this is like iconic. And I remember going home and just watching people like play it on YouTube. And then like, that's why All Hope Is Gone is like my favorite era of Slipknot because I rediscovered their entire back catalog. So yeah, just to be able to go back to that kind of like time in my life and listen to it again too, I think would be like really cool to rediscover like the entire band along with that song. Yeah.
I think that's kind of similar. Yeah, I agree with that. That's kind of what I've been going through with like Smells Like Teen Spirit, with Feeling This. Like those songs helped me discover. I think majority of these songs that I have on here are songs that helped me discover the band and really fall in for them. But the thing is like you listen to it first time, it hits an emotional connection with you on some way that makes you say, I need to check out more from this band.
Yep.
And then you check out the whole band and you're like, holy crap, I've been sleeping in.
What am I missing? Yes, for sure.
And it's funny actually that you brought up guitar lessons because my next one, number 5, is Welcome Home by Coheed.
Oh, nice.
And so that one was actually, Coheed's one of those bands where like a friend showed me them and then I went to go and pick up their CD. And Welcome Home was one of those songs, or Coheed was one of those bands where like I was learning how to play guitar and I always brought a Coheed song to my guitar instructor.
Nice.
And I've had multiple guitar instructors, but every single time I went to a different guitar instructor, I told them I want to learn a Coheed song, they would listen to it and be like, holy crap, this guy's voice is terrible. Is this a guy or a girl? Like that was always their reaction, right? But they're like,
makes sense.
But then they go and listen to the guitar part and they need to learn the guitar to teach me the guitar part. And they're like, holy shit, these guys rip at guitar.
Yeah.
Like what an amazing guitar player. Like, so it's like guitar players love Coheed, whether you like Claudio's voice or not.
I was gonna say, I could never get into Coheed because of the vocals.
As a musician, they are fantastic musicians. And I always loved Coheed growing up. It took me a while, but I grew into, the more higher pitched singing, like the Anthony Greens and Claudio and all of that, Chiodos, like all of that higher pitched screaming and singing. It took me a while to get into, but eventually I loved it. And Coheed and Welcome Home was one of those songs where it was like, it's almost like this like an orchestra. Like it was like a whole big like boom that just happened in your brain as things were happening, because it starts out slow and there's big explosions throughout the songs and solos, and it's just such a crazy
dynamic
experience throughout the entire song that it was like, this is insane. I actually played that song like I was like, I think, how old would I have been? Like 14 maybe. And one of the guitar instructors or schools that I went to actually like put on like talent show nights where we like all get together in like a band. And so like I made these other like 10-year-olds that were learning how to play their instruments, like learn how to play a song like I did like with like all these other people, and we like all performed the song.
Oh wow, that's cool.
It was nuts.
That's fun. Crazy.
It was fun. I feel like 14 might be a little bit too old. Maybe I was like 13. I don't know. At some point
Either way.
In those early teen years.
Yeah, that's super cool. My number 4 is Shadow Moses, Bring Me the Horizon. I was a fan of Bring Me at the time, but I remember hearing this for the first time and being like, this is going to define what I listen to for like ever life. Because like I became obsessed with this style of metalcore like from here on. Mm-hmm. And this was the very first single released in anticipation of Sempiternal. And then it was like the best single run you could ask for. Is like that, Sleepwalking, Go to Hell for Heaven's Sake, and then Can You Feel My Heart. I'm like, that's like 4 perfect singles for that record. So to be able to like go back, hear that like this style of metalcore just had not been done yet.
Yeah.
So I think it was really game changing in 2013 or whenever the single actually came out. So yeah, to go back and like experience that entire album cycle again would be super cool too.
Yeah, and like you said, experiencing the full album like dropping would be amazing.
Yeah, this was like the pivot into that like synth heavy metalcore, which I think bands are still trying to replicate to this day.
And they can't. It's so hard. It's so hard to do it in a good way for the time, right?
For sure.
For me, I have If It Means a Lot to You by A Day to Remember at number 4.
Nice.
So I put that there because the thing is, like, at this point, I already knew who A Day to Remember was. And I already loved A Day to Remember. Like, Since You've Been Gone is what got me into A Day to Remember. They had that cover, and then I was like, oh, who's this? This is so cool. They're doing this, like, radio pop song. They did some screaming in there. That's so sick. And then, you know, going to check out the album, and I've been listening to them. And then when Homesick came out and If It Means a Lot to You hit, it's just one of those songs, like, just the build up alone.
Yeah.
Like, the whole song is great. It's emotional, whatever. But then, like, towards the end, when it starts building up, like, I can literally feel the goosebumps, like, waving over from the bottom all the way up. Like, the crescendo of goosebumps. Yeah. You're just like, and then the big laws, and it's just like, whew. It's literally like a fucking orgasm at that point.
That's fair. For me, honestly, I didn't put A Day to Remember on this list because I experienced Homesick as a full record. So it wasn't like one song that kind of hooked me on it. It was just like the entirety of Homesick. So I guess I could just put Homesick on this list, but
yeah, 100%.
There wasn't one song.
I can put For Those Who Have Heart on this list too, because that's, was what got me into them and discovering that whole album. It was just like a whoa 1-2 banger. But and like I said, I loved A Day to Remember for a long time before they released Homesick. But that song just kind of stands out from the rest, and it just like it hits emotionally more than any song still to this day. There's a reason why like people are still listening to that song in particular.
Yeah.
So that's just I put that song in there just because every time I listen to it, you get that feeling. So like to go in blind, never hearing it before, and
hear it again for the first time.
Like to do that again, that would be cool.
So true.
What do you have next?
Number 3, I have Celebration Song by Holding Absence. So it's like the first official song on their album, The Greatest Mistake of My Life. So this intro song, Awake, kind of leads into it, and it's like this build. And then Lucas just comes storming in with I'm alive and just like holds this crazy big note. But the reason it's this song for me is because I experienced it live. Like I had heard their music before, and I was like, oh, this band's really good, but they hadn't really hooked me. But then they opened for Dayseeker a couple years ago. I can't remember exactly when I saw them. But it basically was Awake leading into Celebration Song. And Lucas comes running on stage and just starts screaming it out. And I'm like, oh my God. So just like, I don't know. It made me fall in love with the band, and then I went back, and this album is like one of the best albums I've listened to. It's so good.
Would you need to hear it live again though? Like, would you, if you were to listen to the song for the first time ever again?
I would, yeah.
For it live or on record?
I would want the live experience again because that was like, it was so game changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're into my top 3. I put All Narrates Beware. I don't even know how to properly say that, by Chiodos.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why I put this is because the album kind of starts out with a prelude and then it goes into this song. And I remember exactly where I was when it was when I listened to this album for the first time. And I had started hanging out with some of the, you know, like it was grade 9, started hanging out with some of the emo kids in school, and they knew about it a lot and I didn't. I kind of went into the high school, like the most I really knew was like The Used and My Chemical Romance, like Killswitch Engage, like all that stuff. But like didn't really know much about like post-hardcore or any of those.
Right.
And so this guy, his name was David. He handed me this CD.
Shout out David.
Yeah, and I was going to, our neighbor had a trailer park that they went to every now and then. I don't really know the full details of that, but they, I guess, invited my family, and so we went to this neighbor's trailer park, and they did like Halloween when it wasn't actually Halloween. It was like something really freaking weird. It was like Halloween on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I don't know. They did like this whole haunted maze thing and all of that. And I remember my buddy gave me the CD for the weekend. I took it, popped it into my Discman on the way to this trailer park, and was just like sitting in the car in the backseat the whole way, like, what is this? Like, it was like game changer. I mean, we've talked about why Chiodos, their album is like my favorite post-hardcore record. It's that emotion. So it's like, I just want to hear the intro again for the first time. Because from the opening notes, I was immediately hooked, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I've never heard anything like this before, right? And then just like the ups and downs of the high-pitched singing with the screaming and back to the sing. It was just the whole thing. I'd never heard anything like that before. It was like, once again, that thing in my brain just switched. Like, music can be like this. A similar thing like to Nirvana, where it was like, that was me discovering post-hardcore. And that was that switch in my brain where I'm like, I just wish I can like go through that just first experience with that again, right?
So true. My number 2 is a boy brushed red living in black and white by Under Oath.
Similar story, being were you at a trailer park?
No. Okay, so this is a very poser way for me to find Under Oath. Okay.
All right, let's hear this.
I loved the OC when I was younger. Season 3, episode 12, I think
they used Under Oath?
They use Under Oath, and it's one of the commercial breaks. It comes back in, and Marissa's sister is listening to this, and they like play the chorus full, and then it like shows her like smoking pot on the porch, and I'm like, okay, love this. But I was like, what the hell was that song? Looked it up right away, and then I was like obsessed with that song, and then it wasn't until later that I like fully appreciated the album, but I just remembered that like visceral moment of watching it and being like, what the hell? Because they always played like Death Cab and shit like that on that show, but nothing super heavy.
I never watched the OC, so I didn't even know they played like Death Cab and stuff.
Yeah, they were like, they loved Death Cab on that show.
I love that. So they had like an emo music director or something.
For sure, yeah. But that one specifically, Under Oath show, it was like, I love it. And then to be able to like go back watching the show for the first time and hear the song for the first time.
How'd you find the song afterwards? Because it's not like there was Shazam. There was Google.
Yeah, shit. I guess
maybe there was Google. I don't know. How did you figure out that was Under Oath?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, we had like, you could search shit.
I don't remember. I'm just like, how powerful were the searchability, the searching ability?
I definitely remember going on something and searching like the OC
you probably Google,
heavy song
like,
from this one episode. Yeah. I can't remember exactly. That's a good question.
Jeeves told you, yeah.
Yeah, Jeeves. I forgot about Ask Jeeves. Holy shit.
My number 2 is kind of similar in one way, in a sense of like, I want to hear the song for the first time again, because the first time I heard it, I knew that I liked the song, but I didn't know who it was. I didn't know what it was. I heard it on the radio, and the announcer didn't backsell the song, but it was like, it would pop up every now and then. I'd be like, fuck, this song is so good, but who is it? And I kept on forgetting to check, their website to see what the song was that played at that time, all of that. And the song is the 59 Sound by the Gaslight Anthem.
Oh, okay.
So I heard this a couple of times on like the local alt station, and then it just disappeared off the airwaves. And I'm like, who was that band that played that song? It was so good. And then 45 came out a few years later, and that started getting some attention on the radio again. I'm like, oh my God, this sounds exactly like that band from the other song. And then from there, it was like out on NHL, I think like 14.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, the Gaslight Anthem. So I found out who it was, and I just walked into a record store and I bought a few Gaslight Anthem records. I just bought them. I was just like, I really love these two songs that were on the radio. I'm just going to buy some of their records. And I bought American Slang and I bought the 59 Sound. And as I threw on the 59 Sound, when the song actually came up, the 59 Sound, I'm like, oh my God, this was the song from before. Like, this is the one that I kept hearing that I really wanted to hear again because I really liked it. And Gaslight Anthem is now my favorite band of all time.
Amazing.
But that was sort of how I discovered them. It was like a weird couple of songs on the radio, and then I forgot about them, couldn't find them, whatever. And then when 45 came out, I went to go buy their back catalog CDs, listen to them, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, these guys are so good. The poetry in their songs and the like punk sound, like it was just, all of it combined was just,
Yeah.
you know, so it was
Just
like,
took you over.
yeah. So it's like, I just want to go back and actually hear it, almost like knowing who and what it was.
Yeah.
And like hear it with my headphones, not over some shoddy speakers where I kind of half hear it. That's why I want to hear it again. I want to hear it with the right experience for the first time.
That makes total sense. I looked it up, by the way. Google had already taken over 40% of the U.S. search market share in 2006, so it was probably Google.
Okay.
But there was also MSN search, so it may have been that.
Yeah, and Yahoo was still popular too.
Yahoo,
back then.
yeah.
Yeah. It was like, for me, it was always like a war between Yahoo and Google. And I actually was like, I like Yahoo better. I was a Yahoo person. and then everyone was like, no, Google.
Yeah, you had to switch eventually.
Yeah. What do you have at number one?
My number one is Paper Cut by Linkin Park, the first album on Hybrid Theory, or the first song on Hybrid Theory. I specifically remember I was hanging out with one of my friends at the time who's like, so our dads were friends. So we were hanging, and they were like, whenever they would get together, they would listen to like some new metal, like System of a Down, Slipknot, blah, blah, blah. And I was hanging out with his son, and they were like, oh, let's just put on some music. And they put on Hybrid Theory. And I remember just like hearing it and being like, what the hell, like that, what the hell is this moment?
Music could be like this.
Yeah,
it's a common theme.
Exactly. And I was just changed forever. I literally left their house, and I think the next day I went and bought the CD so I could listen to it at home. It was like an instant, I need Linkin Park in my life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've just been like a massive fan ever since.
I feel like I need it in the end or numb on my list or something because
I just put that one because it was
like that.
I'd like, he would have started the CD first. That would have been the first song I heard.
That would have
Triggered
perked
it.
you up and be like, what's this?
Yeah, exactly. And like I put this as like my number one because that was like the moment I became like a metal fan for myself. It wasn't just like other people listening to it on there. It was like I actively seeked it out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
My number one is Losers 2 by Spanish Love Songs.
Okay.
So the story kind of behind that was more of it was the pandemic. I mentioned just a few minutes ago, Gaslight Anthem, my favorite band. And so I was just like looking for some music recommendations in the pandemic. I was listening to a lot of Gaslight. I discovered, like Hot Mulligan. A lot of people recommended the Menzingers because if you're a fan of Gaslight, you listen to the Menzingers. So it was kind of like, those were the three bands I was listening to the most, right? It was Gaslight, it was Brian's solo work, Menzingers, and Hot Mulligan. And then I saw like a Reddit thread where people were asking like, what are some other bands like Gaslight? And someone mentioned Spanish Love Songs in one of the comments. And I don't agree with this. I don't think that they remind me of Gaslight whatsoever. But there was something about like reading that name and it stuck out to me in a big list of names.
Okay.
And then I went to work on my way home, just kind of like listening. Spotify's like randomly throwing up songs in the playlist. And the song comes on and I hear this bass line. And I like look down at my car and I see Spanish Love Songs. I'm like, oh, I actually saw someone recommended this in the Reddit thread earlier today. And then that just like crackly voice that Dylan has, that shaky voice, like starting up where he's basically singing about like standing across the street from a home, like his childhood home that he can't afford. And then just like really hitting home on like it's the pandemic. We're millennials making shit money, and the job,
extremely relatable.
Is really everything was just really low. Everything really relatable, and hearing all of those lines, just like I said, it tickled everything. And I was like, what is it? Immediately after the first couple of lines, I had goosebumps, and I just cranked it all the way up on my drive, listened to it, and I'm like, okay, I need to go and check out this band. And then that was how I discovered Brave Faces Everyone, because then I'm like, okay, this song just gave me goosebumps. This is one of my new favorite songs already after hearing it the first time. Go and throw on Brave Faces Everyone. And it was just one hit after another, where it was like, I just couldn't stop listening to it. And it was just over and over and over and over
instantaneous,
again. And it was Losers 2 for me that gave me those goosebumps and was like, oh, okay. And now that's why Spanish love songs are also one of my favorite bands now because of that, right?
Makes sense.
So
crazy.
These lists have been great.
Yeah.
I feel like honorable mentions would go to a couple that you mentioned would be Linkin Park would definitely be in there. I feel like Metallica should kind of be in there. There's so many bands.
I say A Day to Remember should definitely be on mine. It's so hard to make a list of 8 for big experiences like that. But yeah, Metallica would be on mine too, because they would have been one of the earliest bands I remember hearing. I almost put Through the Fire and Flames, Dragonfly. The first time I heard that was on fucking Guitar Hero, and I was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
I can do this on Expert.
I don't know.
Amazing.
There's a lot of different.
What song do you wish that you could hear again for the first time? I'm always curious to know what your subjective opinions are, because these things, our lists and our stories are super personal. So what songs do you wish that you can hear again that, is really personal to you? Let us know. And of course, remember to leave us a review, leave us a comment, share this with your friends, and keep listening each and every single week as we bring you more episodes. Thank you so much for listening.
We'll see you next week.